Here's the question that keeps facility owners up at 2 a.m. in the morning. And it's not, is my program good enough? It's simpler and it's scarier than that. It's what actually happens in the building on Tuesday afternoon when I'm not standing in the room. Because you already know the answer. And the answer is, it depends. It depends on which coach is on the floor. It depends on how many kids walk in. It depends on whether the racks were open or whether somebody's team took over half of the weight room. And when the answer is what happens in the building is it depends, you don't have a system. You have a program that lives in people's heads and gets renegotiated every single session. Now, most owners try to solve that by fixing the program. They buy a template. They hire a smarter coach. They sit down on a Sunday and write out something clean and organized and well-intentioned. And then Monday hits. And the room chews it up and spits it out. And that keeps happening. And eventually you start believing the problem is your staff or your athletes or your discipline. It isn't. The problem is the order of operations. You wrote the program first and then asked the building to accommodate for it. That's backwards. And it's the single most expensive mistake I see in facilities that are otherwise doing everything else correctly and right. Your constraints dictate the build. That's the whole idea. And I want to sit down with you for a couple seconds because it flips the entire process. The program is not something you design and then install. The program is an output. It's what falls out of the other end when you're honest about what your room and your weight room can actually hold. Time, equipment, and bodies on the floor. Those three things already decided what your program is going to be. You just haven't asked them yet. I learned this the hard way. 6 years of coaching, I was working out in a warehouse with no AC, and I had the lowest athlete buy-in I've ever had in my career. Not because I didn't care, and not because I didn't know what I was doing. I was writing better programs the night before than I had ever written. The issue was the program I was writing was based off the program, not the facility that I actually had. They assumed more time than I had, more equipment than I had, and fewer bodies than actually walked through the door. So every session became a live negotiation. I got to cut this, skip that, share a rack, run it back. My athletes felt it. When the plan changes every day, athletes stop trusting the plan. And when they stop trusting the plan, they stop giving the effort you want. That's not a motivation problem. That's a structure problem showing up as motivation. The fix came sitting in a coffee shop, and it was almost stupidly simple. I stopped asking what exercises. I started asking with what is the room that I'm working in? What do I actually have? How long do I actually have? And how many bodies are actually in front of me at a single time? And once I built from those three numbers instead of around them, my planning hours dropped about 60%. And the sessions got better at the same time. Not because I got smarter, because I stopped fighting the building or the facility. So let's talk about the three numbers, because most facilities have never written them down truly and honestly. The first is session length. And I don't mean how long athletes are in the building. I mean the actual training window. The time from go to the time that it's done. Is it 30, 45, 60, 90 minutes? That number is a budget. It's not a preference. It's not a target. It's a hard budget that gets spent whether you plan it or not. If you have 60 minutes and you're written down and you need 75 minutes for that training session, that's not a 75-minute training session. You're going to run over. You're running a 60-minute day with at least a block cut off. And that block gets cut off almost always, and that one you've already called important on a Sunday. The second number is your equipment count. Not the list, the count. How many racks? How many benches? How many trap bars? How many of each thing do you actually own and can put in the hands of an athlete during that training session? Because equipment isn't a wish list. It's a station count. The station count is what determines how many people can be productively working at the same time. Racks are the biggest lever in this. Every rack is roughly about 4 to 5 athletes per rack. Accessories nudge that number a little bit up, But the point is that your true capacity already is sitting on the floor right now. You're either training to that number or you're guessing above it and calling it overflow or flexibility or adjustments. The third number is an honest one, and it's the one people fudge on. Max athletes training at once. Not what you tell teams, not what you sold in the membership. The number your building can actually hold while every athlete is still doing real work with a coach actually coaching them. Most facilities have never separated these two numbers, and that's the gap. It is exactly where quality leaks out. You can absolutely fit 40 in a room built for 24. You just can't train 40 in a room built for 24. One of those is capacity, the other is occupancy. And if you've been running a program that has 40 to 24, that's why your good sessions and your bad sessions look two totally different in that facility. And that's where it breaks. Because when those three numbers are wrong or unspoken or unclear, every downstream decision inherently has an error. Your groups don't fit. Your sessions run long. Your coaches improv. Your athletes get an inconsistent product day to day. And then the owner, you get pulled back onto the floor to hold it all together, which is the exact thing you were trying to build your way out of. The mistake I see most is treating this as an equipment problem. Owners feel the friction and they go straight to buying more stuff. 2 more racks, a new turf lane, another set of dumbbells. Sometimes that's right. Usually it's not, because the friction isn't equipment. It was that nobody ever built the program off the equipment they already had. Buying more gear into an unstructured system just gives you a more expensive chaos. So here's the system, and it's the first step of the facility system builder for exactly this reason. Because you write before you write a single exercise, you put it in your session length, you put it in your equipment count, and you set your max athletes on the floor. And the app will tell you your true capacity. It's an autofill that athletes number transitions, so you can see the honest version. And you can adjust it. That's it. That's step one. You haven't picked a squat variation. You haven't argued about sets and reps. You've defined the box, and everything from there on out gets built to fit inside of it. Group session, session flow, daily structure, the whole calendar, all of it is generated from those 3 inputs. Do that once, and your program stops being a document you hope people follow, and it starts being the shape of the building that it enforces. That's the difference between a facility that depends on you and a facility that runs. If you want to see the numbers for your own facility, the Facility System Builder is free, and it's live right now at stsystem.netlify.app. Put your constraints in and look at what it comes out. And if you'd rather not build it yourself, if you want the whole system installed in your facility, testing, tracking, structure, standard, staff flow, all of it built off of your constraints instead of a template dropped on top of you, that's the facility system build. And that's the work I do. Reach out and we'll talk about it in your room and how I can work with you specifically for your specific needs from your facility. Next week, we'll talk about these 3 numbers and turn them into groups and a session flow, which is where most facilities stop feeling chaotic almost overnight. And remember, systems drive success. See you next time.